record.
Oh,
We are recording.
we are recording, and I would like to call the Curriculum and Student Success Committee of the Portland Public Schools to order on Monday, November 24th at 7:33. I am Committee Chair Julianne Opperman, and we are meeting online on Zoom. Our agenda this evening includes a review of the committee's strategic plan focus on literacy and math, implementation and design. And I see that member Lena and member Ali are joining us, and you have some people on as well. But before we do that, I will open for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment this evening? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. Hello, Kristen. I think since you're there, I'm going to have to read a very long thing that says about all the procedure about public comment. As a reminder, members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personnel matters or complaints concerning specific employees or students, which shall be addressed through established policies and procedures. If an item on the agenda is for a vote, well, we don't need to worry about that. We're not voting tonight on anything. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Not so much here, but try 6 minutes for individuals with interpreter. The speakers must refrain from engaging in disruptive conduct, including but not limited to using vulgar and obscene language, threatening others using words or by other actions, using pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor, making defamatory comments exceeding the time limits within reason, and talking over or interrupting others, offering repetitive comments, offering comments on matters unrelated. The programs are verboten. I will stop any public comment that is contrary to these rules. That said, please raise your hand if you would like to make comment. And I believe we had one hand go up a few minutes ago. Do you still want? Yeah, Emily. And let's see if we can, there you are. We can pull you on.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Emily. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Emily Hill. I'm a mother to two Reiki kids in kindergarten and fourth grade. And I actually sent a letter to the board earlier today about just advocating for more resources for Reiki. I've been going to the community engagement with about the Boundaries Committee and spoke with Superintendent Scallon last week at Reiki or 2 weeks ago about I think in the name of equity in terms of across the elementary educational experience across the district, just recognizing that some nuanced policy regarding teacher ratios, I think is really overdue for looking at and making sure that we're responding to the dynamic needs of the schools and the various students that in cohorts that exist and come up each year, that can take on a really interesting and different learning dynamic of their own. This year at Reiki, it's been particularly difficult to sort of wrangle the fourth grade class with each class having almost 25 students. And I really think it's seriously affecting the learning environment for all of the fourth grade students for both reading and math, stretching the lead teachers thin. And so I think in this name, especially of that big equity email that came out today from the district, I think it would be really appreciated and really valued from our community, especially here on the Peninsula schools, that we really take a hard look at some of these policies to be able to best support both the teachers, the staff, and make equitable learning environments for students. Thank you.
Wow, that was very precise, and I appreciate it, Emily. Is there anything specific other than just class size that you can bring to count on the curriculum as well?
Um, I just think that I'm a physician by trade, and so I'm not an education expert, but I know that I'm a little bit concerned by the use of digital products in across the schools, and I'm not really sure what the evidence is for that. I know in medicine we use a lot of evidence-based stuff, and we don't use stuff that hasn't been proven. And I think a lot of parents probably would appreciate addressing that factor of how much. I think all of us often speak about how much we're a little bit shocked at how much um,
Screen time?
it's technology, but I think that that how much of that is used in schools when I think some evidence has shown to the contrary. Some hard analog learning is actually perhaps more beneficial. That's all.
Okay, I appreciate that very much.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other individuals like to raise their Zoom hand and speak up? We have another minute. Don't see any more hands. With that, I will close
Okay,
public comment and ask that you, Dr. Foster, will introduce everybody and go for it.
great, great. Really excited. Thank you so much. I'm going to, oh. Give me just a moment. I am going to share my screen. Let me try one more time. Here we go. And we're going to go into our discussion for our strategic plan update 2.1 to 2.3. We're going to talk about the strategic plan focus in these areas, to get an update on the ELA implementation, which will cover strategic plan 2.1 to 2.3, in addition to the update on math redesign in those same elements. And then we're going to talk about engaging school teams and step backs. And I'm going to turn it over to Jesse at this time. Is it Jesse? All right. And then we will start here. Thank you, Jesse.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Proctor. My name is Jessie Robinson. I'm the Director of Elementary Academics. And Allison, Dame, and I are here to talk to you about our curriculum implementation initiatives, the strategic plan. This week, elementary is 2.1, middle school is 2.2, and high school is 2.3. And I'm actually going to read the language because I think it's very illustrative of what this work is all about. Support the use of high-quality instructional materials that provide students with consistent access to grade-level tasks and foster high levels of cognitive engagement by building deep knowledge of the adopted curricula, growing capacity to use aligned assessments to inform instruction, and building systems to respond to students' needs. So this work, to break it down, is really about high quality instructional materials, right? So ensuring that all students have access to that grade level learning, and students are engaging in grade level tasks every day. They're not being pulled out. They're for the most part really included in the classroom, and all students have access to that. We are also using aligned assessments to that curriculum, and we use that assessment to inform instruction. And then finally, we have aligned interventions to respond to learning needs in the classroom and in small groups. So that's really the goal. Now this year, I'm going to turn things over to Allison, who's going to talk about the work of this year.
Thank you, everyone. As Jesse said, I'm Allison Dame. I'm Director of Secondary Academics. So I'm Jesse's counterpart in our 6 through 12 schools. So regarding ELA, you'll see those 2.1 and 2.2. So we're in K-8 zone right now in ELA, and we're in our second year of full implementation. Some focus areas for us this year are really emphasizing the pieces of the curriculum that support multilingual learners, which exist within the curriculum, but we're working on PD to build teacher capacity there. And then our second focus is looking at student work, and just having these really dense cycles of looking at the student work to adjust our instruction, and make sure that what we're putting down is actually being picked up by students in terms of their skills. When it comes to math, it's an exciting time. We have 3 design teams going. You'll hear us talk about our K-5 and our 6-8 teams as redesign teams because they have aligned curriculum or aligned HQIM. And they're really looking at alternatives, comparing it to the status quo, and seeing what will be best to drive our student outcomes. So those are our redesign groups. In high school, we have a design group, and they're looking at implementing an aligned HQIM across our schools next year, which would be new in recent memory. And we'll talk more about our timeline, but I don't want to emphasize here that it's not just about choosing the classroom HQIM, it's also about thinking about the assessment, supports, and professional development that will support the implementation of whatever the work groups ultimately recommend. Next slide. Oh, one back. Thanks. So I'll mention here, it's one thing to just like toss up the idea and hope it sticks. Obviously, that's not what we're doing. So there's a number of layers of support to support these initiatives. So we have 3 walkthroughs per year in each school where the district is showing up. In between those district walkthroughs, schools are conducting cycles of observation and feedback. We have a specific professional development arc this year that's the slide that's the image here that you see. All of those PDs are linked to emphasizing once again those strategies for multilingual learners that exist already within the curriculum. And you got to look closely, but if you see in March, we're actually revisiting ones we introduced in August, and in April, we're introducing PD that's responsive to the walkthroughs. So it's not just one and done, but these are topics that we think are important that we're going to return to, and we're going to use our walkthroughs to make sure are actually being implemented. And then at each grade level, we have different opportunities for teacher collaboration. So really providing protocols, training folks on strong facilitation and making sure that teacher collaboration time is being used to full effect. And then finally, where we've been able, we've tried to open up opportunities for peer observations, which are always like a rich learning opportunity and just really a way to support teachers. I think teachers really find that it fills their cup to get to be in others' classrooms and to talk with their colleagues about practice.
Great. So these are just a couple examples of those ML strategies and strategies for multilingual learners coming alive in teachers' classrooms. So the first one we call conversation cues, and again, this comes straight from the curriculum. But really, it's like how do we talk? How do we get students to talk to each other about the content that they're learning? Also, how are teachers modeling that that dialogue and that discussion? And they're really I wish you could kind of dig into them. You could probably Google them, but they're really sort of skills for life, right? How do you better understand someone else? How do you be a good listener? How do you deepen a conversation and ask for more evidence to better understand what another person is trying to tell you? All of these skills are part of the curriculum, and they're facilitating that classroom-wide discussion or peer discussion so that students are really practicing using the vocabulary, using the concepts, and articulating their ideas before then they are asked to write about them. The second photo is a vocabulary wall or a word wall. And we're excited. We have sort of a routine around how teachers present vocabulary in a way that's very student friendly, and then students get a chance to really practice that vocabulary in the class. And then they put the words up on the word wall to see like how can they bring that vocabulary back into their discussion. They can challenge students to use that academic vocabulary in their conversations during morning meeting and other content areas. So if you were to walk through classrooms across K through 8, you would most likely see a vocabulary wall or a word wall. We're like very excited about that. And then the last strategy is called close reading. We actually have not done a PD on this yet, But you'll see in this teacher's classroom, she already has an anchor chart because it's in the curriculum, and she's teaching students how to closely read, which is really like looking at the text closely, using the vocabulary or the concepts from the text itself, digging into sentences, not just sort of skimming. Again, these are really important skills for lifelong learning. And now we'll talk a little bit about some of the data that we've seen in those walkthroughs. So our data at the elementary level is from spring to fall. So where we left off in the spring and where we see classrooms in the fall. We're really excited about the first one, which is that percent of classrooms where students are carrying the cognitive load while maintaining the rigor of the lesson. So this is important because we're seeing that students are being asked to do the work. Again, they're carrying the cognitive load. They're the ones doing the thinking, the writing, the speaking, the listening, not the teacher, not just listening to the teacher. And so this is a real shift in instruction to put the cognitive load on students. We got to 60% last year in the spring, and we're continuing to improve that to 64. This fall, our target is 70%, so we feel really good about that, and we think we can get there in the spring. The second one is this is new work this year, so we have sort of a baseline percentage from the fall. So this is percent of teachers who are using the curricular materials aligned to strategies that support multilingual learners accurately. And again, those are language dives, conversation cues, vocabulary, close reading. When we did this in October, we had only done 2 of the 5 PDs. And so we feel like 44% is pretty good because we're about 40% of the professional development series. So we feel positive about the work that's ongoing. Just since the walkthroughs, there have already been other PDs around this and sort of tune-ups on these PDs, and so we're moving ahead.
Thanks, Jesse. So similar data from the middle school view. In terms of that students carrying the cognitive load, we were at 57% at the very beginning of the year, and that's already gone up to 65%. Again, through the same structures I mentioned earlier, professional development, walkthrough tools, feedback, and collaborative planning time. And then you see this big jump with percentage of teachers using the curricular materials. In the case of middle school, they took a little bit longer to actually deliver the PD in the schools. So once it had been delivered, teachers transparently knew what it was we wanted to see during the walkthroughs. And I will say there was a existing practice around academic dialogue and conversation cues that they were able to really lean on in those walkthroughs. So that's a really great start. And like Jesse said, we've already begun rolling out PD on these other multilingual strategies.
And we put pictures of students and teachers engaged in the curriculum because who doesn't like that? It's really great to see students digging in, really getting excited about the content that they're learning. This particular school, this was the kindergarten classroom on the left, all the way up to a 5th grade classroom on the right. And so across the grade, you're getting, high levels of cognitive engagement, students excited about what they're learning. I'm going to a poetry slam tomorrow as a culminating event for a 4th grade unit that's happening at one of our schools. People are engaging in the curriculum and really making it come to life in their classroom. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about math. So we have, as Allison said at the beginning, we have 3 math work groups. The first 2, elementary and middle, are redesigned because they already have high quality instructional materials in place. And the high school is at the design phase because they would be implementing next year. And when we designed these, we really sort of followed a similar cadence. And so in September, we're really looking, building a team, looking at criteria based on the strategic plan and our instructional vision and our district data, and thinking about, what are we hoping to achieve by the end of the year? We're looking at materials. So at the high school level and the middle school level, they're looking at new high quality instructional materials. At the elementary level, we're really looking at assessments and supplementary materials to pilot. And we're conducting teacher surveys. So at the elementary level, we have a lot of teachers to interview. At the secondary level, less so because it's just math teachers and special ed and multilingual teachers. But that's part of the process is getting input in the process. We're making plans to pilot based on what we see in the survey. Allison and I are gathering budgetary implications right now, and we hope to share that with you at some point in terms of what we're hoping to implement next year. In January and February, we'll be piloting those many materials and kind of offering opportunities for teachers to give feedback on those. And I will say we only pilot materials, just responding to the original parent comment at the beginning. We only pilot materials that have a research base, right? That are based on, um, already proven results. That are aligned to the Common Core, that are high quality in every way. And so, really, we're getting sort of user feedback from the teachers around what would work for them in their context, knowing that all of the materials that we're reviewing are high quality and research based. By March or April, we really hope, oh, sorry, a couple more things. We hope to engage parents or students in our sort of findings, draft what we hope to be a 3-year plan. So it's not just what's going to happen next year, but thinking about how we're going to roll this out in the next 3 years, because we know that change requires that kind of support over time, sustained support over time. And then we'll begin planning for the fall and what that might look like. We'll finalize those recommendations, share them with Dr. Scallon, as well as other leadership, and get their feedback, and then continue to plan for implementation.
All right, so the final thing we wanted to cover tonight is a new practice for us, and one that really plugs in nicely to a lot of stuff we've already been doing. So at every single one of our schools, the network team aligned to that school went and spent at least 90 minutes with that team on what we call a step back. So every school has a school success plan. They have goals. They have already established like progress monitoring plans for how they're going to track their goals. But this was an opportunity for them to tell us around each of those goals, what were their achievements so far and what can we learn from that? What were their challenges? What was their data so far? And if you've been involved in adaptive work for, improvement in organizations, sometimes we're talking about like, okay, we thought this was the right progress monitoring tool, but we got to shift it to this. So it's very problem solving. And oh yes, I see this bullet on best laid plan, so we reflect on what's going well. And actually, Dr. Atkinson-Duino, who's on the call, is kind of get us to think about ending that sentence with like the best laid plans can actually succeed if we, engage in the follow through and use data. So that's very much the mindset. And it was really exciting to be in all of the schools. Some things are going terrific, some things are going well, but it felt like we were all on the same page in terms of problem solving around those. All right, thank you. And now we're here to engage in conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for sharing the information. I just have to say that it's just great work that you all are doing. And then I'll turn it over now to Board Member Opperman to lead us through the discussion.
Certainly. I have to say this again, a great presentation, a lot of information, a lot of clarity, and many, many things. And I have questions, but I will defer to other members first. Member Lena.
Thank you so much. And I apologize for being off screen. I was just finishing up my dinner. I had a question about the teacher survey that has gone out and is being reviewed. Is that something that is comes from EL, that they have a teacher survey that you send out, or is that something that PPS has created?
I can talk about the one that we developed at the elementary level. So we have, I believe, 12 people on, I can check to see the actual numbers on our math work group. And our math work group at the elementary level has members from every school and every grade level and every role represented. And so we together drafted the survey. First, I got everybody to sort of share what question they're interested in finding out. I then looked at some sort of readiness surveys that are out there that look to see like how you assess whether a district is ready to adopt certain um, new initiatives. So I built it based on both their input and sort of best practices around developing surveys of this type. And then I brought it back to the group and they gave more feedback and then we administered it.
Thanks. And I'm sorry if I misunderstood. So that survey was specifically about math.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Is there ongoing surveying done with the EL curriculum as well?
I can speak to that a little bit. We for the EL for those 5 PDs we do, we always gather input, which has been very positive in terms of the professional development we're providing to implement the curriculum. I would say in terms of like backing up and asking about the curriculum itself, what we're aspiring to is like a 5-year cycle for picking any curriculum for a given grade span and subject.
I would also add, I don't, Jessie may have forgotten this by now, but she did also put out an end of the year survey
Okay.
to teachers around kind of in advance to gather their information about what they wanted to focus on for this year. And so we did also have that survey that did focus on EL and ELA and some of our other topics at the elementary level.
The other way, just one more thing to add, our instructional coaches meet with teacher teams every week, and they're always gathering input and data from those teachers. And then we meet all together as a team once a month. And so it's a little bit more informal in terms of collecting feedback, but we're always adjusting and um, changing course based on where we're at in terms of implementation.
Great. And do you, on that feedback, anecdotal stuff, do you kind of keep a list of it going somewhere so you can keep thinking, okay, because it may not show up as a data piece per se.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we can match it to data and all.
Absolutely.
Vice Chair Bondo. And when you're off, there you go.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I have 4 questions. Okay. Can we go to the slide 7? I have a slide 7 on the elementary here. So I think the percentage of teachers are using the curricula. I see the fall, we have a 44%. So I'm just wonder, because we just came back from the policy committee and we got some teachers of the elementary school talking about the class sizes and little challenging with the class sizes to be able to implement some of those curriculum. So I'm just wonder, those are 44 are representing teachers across all grades, or are we have just how we come out with that 44? What's the representation is there? Because if some have a challenging to implement, so I just wonder if it's a specific grades or is all across the elementary school building that we have.
That data point is all across elementary school, so K through 5. And I will say 100% of teachers are using the curriculum. And this data point is specifically about those new strategies for teaching multilingual learners, which is sort of newly presented this year. And so that's really what that 44% is. I'd say above that, it's really the 64% is teachers being able to implement the curriculum so that students are doing the work and teachers are teaching to like the rigor of the lesson. And I feel like that is a little bit more indicative of the work that we did last year around teacher
Mhm.
planning, student engagement, sort of teaching the curriculum as it's intended. So I
Okay.
think, I don't know if that helps. Um,
A little bit, a little bit. I'm
yeah.
still digging. I try just to get a broader picture about
Mhm.
the 44
Yeah.
percent representation. So, but yeah, thank you, Jess.
Yeah.
My second question is on the slide 5 on the professional development here for teachers. So when we talk about the multilingual, I mean, this is so targeting the multilingual students here. So I'm just wondering about the percentage of the teachers who just expose some challenges, because when I look at the effective of integrating the content objective for the new curriculum and also try to teach the language academic to the students. So I'm just wonder if he's not creating a dual curriculum to those teachers where they have to add some prep time to try to incorporate both of them on the same time.
Um, do you mean, I see. So, like, how do you teach a curriculum and ensure that kids have
Yeah.
access?
Yes, because just is that because I have seen that one for some multilingual teacher student. Then I've been talking across parents is that when I see, because I volunteered to the classroom years
Mhm.
ago, and I knew exactly how kind of challenging teachers they have to to uh, to teach the language academic to the
Mhm.
students. And
Mhm.
also now we're adding the new curriculum. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to see our best practices like integration to integrate that content
Mhm.
objectively to the student, also teaching them the language academic.
I see.
And then for the teacher, because everything you said and the teacher are really positive on them. So I try to get the challenges to
Mhm.
those teachers to try to combine also by integrating the content, objective content to the new curriculum, plus teaching the language academics. So he's now making a dual curriculum for those teachers,
Mm-mm.
which may increase the prep time or they can balance both of them. So this is just if
Yeah.
I'm making sense to you. So this
No,
is
that's
my
a
thinking.
that's I think I understand and hear your
Mhm.
question. What I would say is that's the benefit of having high quality instructional materials and why we go through such a rigorous
Okay.
process to identify the curriculum. Because if it's high quality, it is especially in the area of ELA, that
Mhm.
curriculum is exposing students to complex texts. It is building knowledge. It is also incorporating academic language and building academic language within the text and within the curriculum itself. So
Mhm.
it's not a separate endeavor, especially for our multilingual students. It's not a separate endeavor, but it's an endeavor to work with our teachers and provide them with the training and support so that they have a keen understanding of the curriculum itself and
Mhm.
that they are best able to um, implement that curriculum in a way that kind of hits the four T's
Mhm.
that were talked about before, that
Right.
they're able to get to the rigor. That is sometimes what happens is if I don't know my curriculum well and I don't
Mhm.
understand the features within the curriculum, and if I may not get to teaching all of the components of a lesson that is designed
Mhm.
and scientifically proven within that curriculum to be the best approach, right?
Right.
But through professional development and support and coaching and training with my instructional coach, I will be able to maximize all of the benefits of that curriculum, which is teaching it at a high level, ensuring that students have access to complex text, building knowledge, building academic language, and asking students to really deeply engage by using evidence to support, their understanding of the learning that's
All
happening.
right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Proctor. So I just wonder, the all the strategies you just mentioned, those are the strategies may apply to the teachers who are challenging with those aspects of teaching, the content of the new curriculum and also the language academic. So is really balancing the process of teaching the high quality instruction. I just wonder because it's not happening yet. I just asking a question if it's happening, and those are the strategies then you attempt to apply.
Yeah,
Or
so
is really happening across some of
it's
the work
it's hap
too?
yeah, it's happening. That's why we're keeping track. Let me see if I could get back to the numbers. That's why we're doing walkthroughs, right?
Okay.
So the academic team, they're able to get into the schools and do the walkthroughs. And we are looking for observational evidence that
Right.
it's happening. And so
Okay.
with any new curriculum that you're implementing, it takes time to get to 100% of 100%, right?
Right.
And so that's where through the walkthroughs, we're able to see and understand exactly where it's working, where it's happening really well at a high level, and then where we need to cycle back with some instructional coaching for teachers.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm just going back what you said earlier about the English learner students with the new curriculum content. So the cognitive of the learning process here, when I see here on the slide 8, I think. I'm just wonder because I'm a bilingual, and when I used to do, and even though some of my nieces, we attempt to translate in French to English first. So I'm just wonder if we have any feedback from teachers about have seen that then the way our kids are responding to those content and learning process, it may slow their comprehension and retention or not. That's just the one I want to come, because it's taking a little time when they have to translate from the home tongue language to the English. So how the teachers see that if it's moving a little faster, or is kind of a little slow the comprehension, because we need to know that those same students, they have to learn the language, academic language, and they also have a cultural norms. So everything balancing together. So I'm just wonder if the
Mhm.
comprehension and retention are
What are
balanced
we
or it's kind of a
what are
little
we
slow.
seeing for how are so what I hear you asking is how are our multilingual students receiving the learning, the academics, and what is there any feedback that we're getting from teachers on
Exactly,
how well
yes.
our
About
multilingual students specifically are progressing through? Um,
exactly, yes. About
uh,
comprehension and retention. Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
I'll pause and see if Angela or Jesse, are we
Allison?
doing specific walkthroughs for multilingual, or is there any data that we're collecting to see how well our multilingual students are responding to the new curriculum?
So I think I can answer that in two ways. One, we are in our walkthroughs, Carlos Gomez accompanies us, right? So he's part of the team, or would be Teresa Lee at the secondary level. And one of the reasons it's great to have the whole team there is because each person each brings their own expertise and their own lens to see things. So Carlos does pay particular attention to how we are responding to multilinguals in our core classroom. And then the other thing I would just, we know that just remind folks that, our multilingual learners come at all different stages of learning the language. So students who are at levels 1 and 2 on the access, the assessment of English language development that we use, we do often have to use a separate curriculum for them. And so because we are focused on building background knowledge, and we are focusing on kind of the early language development structures at levels 1 and 2. There is a new curriculum that ELA is developing that has that's called Unlock ELD, I think it is. I'm not sure exactly, but that would help us have a curriculum for our like level 1 and level 2 that was really more closely aligned to our ELA curriculum. Right now, we're using a curriculum through National Geographic that's well regarded at those levels. At levels 3 and 4, we definitely have students who are much more integrated and are using our ELA curriculum. And I would say, our ESOL teachers, for instance, do quite a bit of work to help scaffold those materials. We have learned how to share materials that can support ESOL teachers across our grade level around where those are needed. But those are some ways that we help to make sure that our multilingual learners are participating in our core curriculum. But we also recognize that language development takes time. Between 5-6 years is when we typically expect somebody to exit from from having to take the access and to move in out of English language development support.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So my last question is about the assessment. How we do some standardized assessment with the new curriculum, or if those assessment are modified for the English learner, or it's just the same way the assessment are done.
So what assessments do we have that is paired to the new curriculum? And then
Yes,
how are we assessing multilingual learners? How does that
exactly.
apply
Yeah.
to multilingual learners?
We have in K through 5 we use actually K through 8 we use the assessments that come with the curriculum. So they are either once or twice a unit, and there's 9 units in the year, and so students and we um, provide accommodations for students that are levels 1s and 2s to be able to access that and be able to be successful on those. For levels 3s and 4s, we, provide support, but we want to see how they're doing in the curriculum. So we try to give it to them unmodified as much as possible.
Right.
We also provide M-Class, which gives us a lot of additional information about their literacy skills. And so teachers are constantly looking at their ELA curriculum alongside their M-Class data. We are hoping to have something similar like that in math, so that we can have that like side-by-side comparison. And I think
Okay.
also something, Allison, do you want to speak to what that looks like at secondary level?
Yeah, talking specifically to ELA, like it's very similar. You have your in-class assessments, and something we haven't mentioned is that that particular HQM does come with a book of like
Okay.
supports around ML supports that teachers are using. I'd say anecdotally, what they're using more are their colleagues, and their colleagues are not their ESOL teaching colleagues and like consultation. But in terms of like assessment, we have a little less than at elementary, but we still have those in curriculum assessments. Teachers use NWA data, they use Lexia data, and then many of our classes are co-taught with an ESOL teacher, and so the ESOL teacher themselves is a support in the classroom that may be working with a small group as they're taking an assessment.
Right. Thank you so much. My last just comment is that if really all the teachers are putting the passion and to make sure then the new curriculum really can be well implemented, is a game changer for our English learners. So thank you so much for what you do. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm done with my questions.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else before I start in? I am just double check. It's hard to see everybody. A couple things, just to follow up on what some of Mickey was Vice Chair Bonda was talking about, with ESOL teachers in with the regular teachers. And I'm wondering, at the elementary level, if there is with a level 1, level 2, is there any pre-teaching? That getting kids to conversation is really, really good. And I've seen good programs in science on that, using inquiry and evidence-based and sharing and questioning and things of that sort. So for elementary, and so I'm also hopeful that you did say that there was multiple academic areas. I'm hoping that some of that came about. But my question is there any pre-teaching done at the elementary level? Okay, that's a yes. I'm seeing a nod. Jesse?
Yeah, I think that is one of the strategies that is in people's back pocket. Like they know something is coming. What's nice about having a common curriculum is you know what's coming up, right? And so you can plan for that as co-teachers and say, okay, we know this important discussion is going to happen in class. Let's set these kids up for success and have the conversation during flex block, which is like a time during the day when they get sort of extra practice with their ESOL teacher. And so they might like pre-practice what they're going to be talking about in class using the academic language. So then when they get to class, they can be really successful with their peers. So that's one of the things that people certainly do.
Good, and I'm the same, I'm sure, is going on, Allison, in some of the middle schools at least.
Yeah, I mean, so at two of our middle schools, we use co-teaching. And we can put a pin in this for a different conversation, but the CALS audit is happening right now in terms of like looking at best practices for ESOL. But yeah, similar to what Jesse's saying, when the ESOL teachers have not only the opportunity to co-teach, but planning time with their teacher, that awareness of the curriculum allows them to support their teachers in really support their students in really targeted specific ways because they know what's coming in the curriculum.
So in related to both of those areas, and it's always, do we have enough ESOL teachers that's happening in enough classrooms, particularly at the high school and middle school levels? Are we pretty short term?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to make a judgment around numbers, but I would say certainly like in this, I don't feel like this
You don't feel like there's enough? You just
be
froze.
by then the time to plan with the teacher. And then I would say our middle schools are also supported because the teams have time to meet. And then the students are in win. So I'm not giving you a direct answer, but I do think that it's a more complicated calculus than just like how many
Right.
kids in how many rooms because we're trying to support those teacher collaborative structures, which I think are really key.
I loved the comment, I think, was it Jesse that you said, or was it you, Allison, that said, not just hope it sticks. I think that's really in getting the professional development for the teachers, but also I think that's the question that we all ask about the kids. We put all this stuff out there, and what kinds of, just I think Nikki brought up something about what kind of assessment. I think standardized, and whether it's, I think standardized in my mind is multiple choice type thing. And I'm, I don't know elementary at all. So, but are we really, how accurately could a teacher not say a particular student is doing at a particular time? Is within the limits of being a teacher of the classroom. But I'm fishing for things here. Can you help me?
I can help you. I can talk to that. I mean, I think the assessments are really great. They have both multiple choice questions. They have written answers, but they also have performance tasks where kids are expected to engage in a conversation with their peers in the classroom and they get graded on a rubric. And so kids, they're doing reading, writing, speaking, and listening in all of the assessments or it's like the standards are covered throughout the year. And so teachers then get this data from those assessments and they get to look at that with their colleagues, like Allison talked about. That collaboration is critical because then they're supporting each other. Oh, your students did really well on that. How did you do that? Or they're planning for the next thing based on the what they're seeing in those units, those unit assessments, I just think that like having really high quality assessments is critical to understanding what kids are thinking, how is it sticking, like are they really understanding the concepts? And even the performance task at the end of the module, which is kind of like a celebration of learning, like I talked about the poetry reading I'm going to tomorrow. It's a chance for kids to really celebrate all that they learned about poetry, maybe share about a poet that they learned about that they really loved. Like it's really a chance. It's a community event where kids really get to like talk to an adult or a younger student about what they learned. It's those are like the moments where it's sticking because it's relevant to the kids, it's meaningful to them, and it kind of makes everything come alive.
Yeah, I'll just pile on with like two quick anecdotes so that there's many different types of assessments, and I would say echoing Jesse, like what really stands out to me is how many different modalities like kids are needing to work through as they do the assessments. But one of the things we do in our content planning time is we take an assessment as a student. And I've sat, just this fall with eighth grade teams taking an assessment um, around how the passive voice might take agency out of characters and actually they were talking about that in like relation to the Holocaust, and then that had implications for rhetoric today. And the teacher in taking it, one of the teachers said, "Oh, there's a language dive," and like started to open up her book because she could identify the language dive where that was covered. That was like a week or two before students would take that assessment. So there's really no shortcuts. Like they're robust, and you just have to really like get kind of knee deep in it to start to see the connections. But yeah, if a quick glance would show you a selected response, aka multiple choice, but as you dig deeper, I think it's much more demanding of students. And so that collaborative time is really important to unpack that.
Super, super. I appreciate both of your giving me some clarity on that. I was in relationship to math. I mean, it's really from scratch at the high school, middle school. How much of this is they're using a math program in middle school now?
Yeah, so the story with middle school, and Jessie may have to help me because she held basically my position when this all went down, but is they adopted illustrative mathematics. They were using open up resources, I believe, and then they discovered somewhat organically that the Desmos program had the same scope and sequence as illustrative mathematics, but that the interface was more accessible and usable for more accessible for students and more usable for teachers. Now, we're a little in the weeds here, but Amplify ended up buying Desmos. They use that. But what I will tell you is that I've been working with these teachers. None of them would claim that the same kind of PD around implementation was present for Amplified Desmos because that was kind of just like a teacher-driven transition. And so I think now they're really looking at, we're going to pilot other products. We're going to really critically look at the use of Amplified Desmos. But even if we were to continue with the same product through that process, there's really a consensus that we need to pause and figure out, because every curriculum has sort of pedagogical moves. So to just give you an example, like Amplified Desmos, it has a lot of digital tools, kind of going back to our parents' comment, right? But really, if you dig in, it wants students to be in dialogue and collaborating with each other. So we need to do PD to figure out how do you know, we all live in a digital age. Like some digital tools, like kind of suck us into like this solo thing, right? And so there's real specific PD that needs to be done to use whichever product we choose well. So yeah, that's kind of the journey they're on and where we want to take next step.
I make sure that nobody else I will continue on the math. K through 12. I mean, when a student finishes 5th grade and moves into 6th grade, will the math transition be smooth from the same thing from 8th to 9th? And in the middle school, is there enough depth to the math that if a student all of a sudden accelerates, they're supported to be able to go into a higher math in high school? Just, that's my concern is kids getting stuck in a particular level of math because they had difficulties in fourth grade. Because classic fourth grade is like, from every student I ever talked to, if they had trouble, it was fourth grade. And then after that, yeah, so you know what it is. And so I'm just saying that, okay, they finally get it. But they have been stuck. And I don't know, as we in the middle school, if someone's really got it in sixth grade, can they accelerate into a higher level that is even beyond? I mean, do these programs, how much how much depth are these programs to reach the gifted student as
Yep.
well as
So
the student
So
supporting?
I'll tell you, so like because of this design work, I've been doing like a little thinking into like what international,
Great.
what people are doing. And like one thing I discovered is that the countries that are really excelling, they keep kids together through 10th grade. I'm not suggesting we necessarily need to do that, but just to say, but then they need to provide a pathway for all kids to have some pathway to calculus. And that's actually something I'm pretty passionate about because I don't think a ninth grader necessarily knows what they want to do in college or what, what STEM prerequisites they're going to need to collect. So we want to make sure that they have that pathway. But to answer your question, Math 6 and Math 7, everyone's together, in 6th and 7th grade. We do have Chapter 104, X stuff available. But in 8th grade, every student has the ability now to take algebra, and we are seeing increasing enrollments in algebra. No prerequisites. If you want to take algebra, you can take algebra, and you're taking that concurrently with Math 8. And they'll say, like, we're not happy with the results in terms of who's meeting standards, but we are seeing accelerated growth in 8th grade. And we think it may be just because they have more instructional minutes in math now that we've opened up algebra. That's a
So
hypothesis.
they take both.
They take both. Yeah. So that's a hypothesis. I'm just putting it out there, but we
It's
want
a
to
very
continue to
reasonable
get
one.
more kids, more instructional minutes in math. But then in the transition between 8th and 9th, I want to just say there's multiple pathways to get yourself into accelerated math, um, including, I think the biggest, we call it AMP camp. So this is a summertime opportunity. Um, and you have to pass. You have to go and actually put in the work to be ready. But we had more kids attend and more kids pass than we have in recent memory this year. So we're trying to push on the boundaries there.
Okay. Awesome. This has been really good. I also, like I said at the beginning, I think there's so many good things. I really like what you are doing with the step back and getting people to really think about their work and not just do it, but to really think about as much engagement in the process as they expect the kids to do cognitively in the content and all. Yeah, that's so much. I don't want to keep everybody later than they need to be, but is anything else? I can't wait to hear about the other subject matters, that how this all blends in. Oh, thought. How many minutes or how much time percentage wise of a day is in the English language and math in elementary school and in middle school? How do those vary? Because just what you said, Allison, about the fact that more time is bringing people more up. So what do you think? In an average week, 20% of the day is in language arts, 50% of the day? And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer it.
Well, we do have instructional minutes for elementary, and so it's we have 2 hours K through 2, so an hour of CKLA, an hour of EL. Then we also have flex, so that's 2.5 hours K through 2, and then 3-5 we have about 2 hours, so flex and foundational skills, but foundational skills a little bit shorter.
Is that
So
per what?
that's 3 through 5.
Per 2.5, 2 hours, 2.5
Per
hours
day.
Per
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah.
a lot of time, which is good.
Yep. And middle school, it's an hour a day, right, Allison?
Yeah, it's between like 45 and 50 minutes. So the core content, so the 4 core content students receive every day.
Yep.
So I guess on so there's a lot of time to teach and reteach in elementary school. In the 45 minutes in middle school, if it isn't sinking in during that particular 45-minute period, what are the tier 2 type things that are available?
Yeah, so that on all three schools they'll call it win or what I need. And I'm not going to be able to quote you on the minutes of that. It's
No,
a
no, no,
shorter
but
block. It's a
it
shorter
varies.
block than the core content. But what's critical is that the teams, so the cross-disciplinary teams that know all the students, are using data on a regular basis to group students during WIN
Mhm.
based on what they need.
Okay, so
And Mhm.
they're actually, WIN is not, I think in high school, WIN is very loose, isn't it?
It's more, yeah, well, you could say more flexible, but it's more day to day. Teachers and students can choose what they need. Yeah, in middle schools, it's groups based on recent data, and they do change throughout the year based on new data.
All right, good. Thank you. Mickey, Maya, Yusra, any thoughts? Or would you like us to ask for adjournment? It's been a long way for those of us who've been meeting since 6 o'clock, and it's quite a long day. I would ask, does anyone care to move for an adjournment? Maya does, and all, and so a second, and hands. Okay, we are. Thank you, everybody. It's really so good. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Good
Bye.
night.